The morning streets were already busy when Jesus walked toward the village market. The sun had just risen, and golden light touched the rooftops, the baskets, and the dusty road. Vendors opened their stalls one by one. Some sold fresh vegetables. Some sold rice in large woven sacks. Some sold meat, herbs, and simple spices. Jesus walked slowly through the market with a peaceful face and a humble basket in his hands. He did not come to buy food for a feast of kings. He came to prepare a meal for people who had no home. Near the edge of the road, several homeless men and women sat beneath a broken wooden shelter. Their clothes were worn. Their faces were tired. Some had slept outside through the cold night. Some had not eaten since the day before. Jesus saw them before he entered the market. He saw the hunger in their eyes. He saw the loneliness in their silence. He saw people that many others passed by without noticing. Jesus did not look away. Jesus stepped into the market and stopped beside a rice seller. Large sacks of rice stood open beneath the shade of a cloth roof. Jesus reached down and touched the rice gently with his fingers. The grains were clean, white, and simple. Jesus asked for enough rice to feed many people. The seller measured the rice into a cloth bag. Jesus paid fairly and thanked him with kindness. Then Jesus walked to a vegetable stall. There were carrots, onions, cabbage, tomatoes, leafy greens, and fresh herbs. Jesus chose each vegetable carefully. He picked carrots that were firm. He chose onions with dry golden skins. He selected cabbage with crisp green leaves. He added tomatoes, garlic, and a bundle of fresh herbs. The colors filled his basket with life. A young girl at the stall watched him quietly. She asked why he was buying so much food. Jesus looked at her gently. Jesus said the food was for people who had no table of their own. The girl looked toward the road and saw the homeless people sitting in the distance. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she placed a few extra carrots into Jesus' basket. Jesus smiled and thanked her. After that, Jesus went to the meat seller. The stall was simple but clean. Jesus chose fresh meat that could be cooked slowly with vegetables and broth. He did not choose the most expensive pieces. He chose what would become tender with patience. The meat seller wrapped the meat carefully. Jesus placed it beside the rice and vegetables. His basket was now heavy, but Jesus carried it without complaint. As Jesus walked back from the market, a few people noticed him. Some wondered why he carried so much food. Others looked at the homeless people and then looked away. Jesus continued, walking toward a humble outdoor kitchen near the shelter. There was a wooden table, a clay stove, a pot, a knife, a bowl of water, and a small fire pit. Jesus set the basket down and began his work. First, Jesus washed his hands. Then Jesus poured the rice into a large bowl. He covered it with clean water. The water turned cloudy as the dust left the grains. Jesus stirred the rice gently with his hand. Then he drained the water. He washed the rice again and again until the water became clear. Jesus placed the clean rice into a large pot. He added fresh water and set the pot near the fire. Then Jesus prepared the vegetables. He washed the carrots carefully. He peeled away the rough outer layer. He sliced them into small pieces. He washed the cabbage and cut it into wide strips. He peeled the onions and chopped them slowly. He crushed the garlic with steady hands. He sliced the tomatoes and placed them in a clay bowl. The homeless people watched from a distance. Some were curious. Some were ashamed to come closer. Some were afraid the food was not meant for them. Jesus looked toward them with compassion. Jesus did not call them strangers. Jesus saw them as guests. He placed dry wood under the stove and lit the fire. The flame grew slowly. Smoke rose softly into the morning air. The pot of rice began to warm. Soon, gentle steam lifted from the lid. Jesus placed another pot over the fire. He added a little oil. Then he added garlic and onions. The smell became warm and comforting. The onions softened and turned golden. Jesus added the meat and stirred it carefully. The pot became full of color. Red tomatoes mixed with orange carrots and green cabbage. The broth began to bubble gently. Jesus lowered the fire so the food could cook slowly. He knew that a good meal needed patience. He stirred the pot from time to time. He checked the rice. He added a little more water when needed. He watched the fire carefully so nothing burned. The smell of cooking rice and meat spread through the street. More homeless people began to gather nearby. An old man leaned on a wooden stick. A tired mother held a small child in her arms. A young man with dusty shoes stood quietly near the wall. Jesus saw each of them. Jesus did not ask what they owned. Jesus did not ask why they were poor. Jesus did not ask them to prove they were worthy. Jesus simply continued cooking. When the rice was soft, Jesus removed the pot from the fire. The grains were warm and fluffy. When the meat and vegetables were tender, Jesus tasted the broth and stirred it once more. The meal was ready. Jesus placed bowls in a row on the wooden table. He filled each bowl with rice. Then he added the warm meat and vegetables on top. Steam rose from every bowl. The food looked simple but beautiful. Jesus called the homeless people closer. They were used to receiving leftovers, not a meal made with care. Jesus waited patiently. The old man came first. Jesus placed a warm bowl into his shaking hands. The man looked down at the rice and vegetables with tears in his eyes. Then the tired mother came forward. Jesus gave her a bowl and gave another small portion for her child. One by one, Jesus served them. No one was pushed away. No one was forgotten. Every bowl was given with kindness. The homeless people sat beneath the shelter and began to eat. At first, they ate in silence. The rice warmed their hands. The broth warmed their bodies. The vegetables and meat gave them strength. Slowly, their faces changed. The old man smiled. The child laughed softly. The tired mother closed her eyes with relief. Jesus watched them with quiet joy. The meal had become more than food. It had become dignity. It had become comfort. It had become a reminder that every life mattered. When all the bowls had been served, Jesus gathered the remaining food. He filled extra bowls for those who were too weak to come forward. He asked a few children to help carry the food to people resting near the road. The kindness moved beyond the kitchen. It traveled from hand to hand. It reached people who thought they had been forgotten. As the sun moved higher in the sky, Jesus cleaned the table. He washed the pots. He folded the cloth. He gathered the empty baskets. The fire slowly faded into warm coals. The homeless people remained beneath the shelter, no longer silent with hunger. They had eaten. They had been seen. They had been served with love. That day, Jesus went to the market with a basket. Jesus bought rice, vegetables, and meat. Jesus cooked with patience and care. Jesus served the homeless with compassion. And through a simple meal, Jesus showed that love is not only spoken. Love walks into the market. Love carries heavy baskets. Love washes rice. Love cooks slowly over a fire. Love fills empty bowls. And
Thank you,
love
Lord.
gives dignity to
He
those
saved
the
us.
world often forgets.